Mom taught me how to break a gun down to the point you could get a shell in it without the extractor making a noise. And I eased a shotgun shell in that thing and eased it shut. And as I was walking, I just angled toward the right slowly and started walking straight toward it. And when I got about 30, 40 yards from it, I stopped and I could clearly see it then. And this thing was probably 4 foot across the shoulders. It was enormous.
This is the Cryptid Creature Show. I am Brian, and with me as always, my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
Tonight we have a great episode, Brian. As you know, we are bringing 2 guests on tonight.
2?
First of all.
I like those.
Yes, me too. And our first guest is Gary, and he actually has shot a Bigfoot when he was younger.
Wow, that's awesome.
I think this might be our first episode where someone shot a Bigfoot that I remember.
I think you're right.
Really excited to hear what he's got to say.
Me too.
And after him, we're going to bring James on. And James had some really weird paranormal stuff going on in his life. He's going to talk to us about that. So I'm really excited to bring both these guys on.
Yeah.
What do you say we bring Gary on?
Yep, let's get him.
Hey, Gary, it's Todd and Brian from Cryptid Creatures. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us, and we appreciate it, man.
No problem.
So we had spoke before, Gary. You had an encounter, a pretty intense encounter, back in your early years, and this was in southern Illinois, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that where you grew up?
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
Okay. Well, why don't you take us into the encounter and let us and the listeners know what happened to you.
Well, I'll tell you best I can remember, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. My dad, I told you he shot himself when I was 5, never had a dad. My mom, God love her, she did the best she could raising me. She's gone now. She taught me to hunt, taught me how to handle a gun, taught me how to fish. Everything I know, basically. Anyway, I was 13, 14 years old. I really can't. It's been so long ago, I can't really remember how old exactly I was. But she had brought a brand new Stevens single shot shotgun, and I was dying to use it. I had a little 22 single shot, and I finally talked her into letting me take it squirrel hunting. So she'd always told me, don't cross a fence with a loaded gun, stuff like that, gun safety. And I was walking across the field, hayfield, toward the woods to go squirrel hunting late in the afternoon in September, I believe. And the power company had these double power poles that went up over the hill, and they kept them cleaned off as best they could. The undergrowth, no trees underneath them. And there was this big rock down close to the fence, 10 yards from the fence maybe, on the other side, on the hillside of the fence. And in the late summer in southern Illinois, you got these vapors coming up off the ground because it's so hot. And you see a lot of things that ain't real, optical illusions. Of course, me being a kid, didn't think much about stuff like that then. Anyway, I get about 2/3 of the way across the field, and I'm walking at an angle toward the woods. And I see this thing sitting on a rock that I knew. I grew up on that farm, and I knew that shouldn't be there. Didn't know what it was. Whatever it was I was looking at wasn't supposed to be there. And I just kept walking. I didn't pay it a whole lot of mind. And as I walked across the field, I gradually got closer to it because I was walking at an angle. And when I got close enough that I could see that there was really something there, I noticed it was swaying side to side. And I stopped when I seen that, and I'm standing there looking at it, trying to figure out what it is. And when I stopped, it stopped moving. And I thought, well, it's an optical illusion, and then trying to use logic, best I could at that age. So I just went on, started back toward the woods, and I looked back over, and it was swaying side to side. And I had walked 10, 15 more yards, and I stopped, and it stopped moving. And I thought, now, something's up. And we had 3 channels on our TV, and I had never heard of Bigfoot or Sasquatch or anything of that nature. Right? This just wasn't registering with me what this thing is. But I clearly see there was something sitting on that rock watching me. And mind you, I grew up on this farm, and I spent days and days and days hunting and hiking and playing, being a kid on this farm. And I had knew that thing shouldn't be there. So I started walking again, right in the direction I was going to go squirrel hunting, and it started moving again. As soon as I started walking, it started moving, and I seen it do it that time. No loaded gun. Mom taught me how to break a gun down, shotgun, to the point you could get a shell in it without the extractor making a noise. When you squirrel hunt, you got to be quiet. And I eased a shotgun shell in that thing and eased it shut. And as I was walking, I just angled toward the right slowly and started walking straight toward it. And when I got about 30, 40 yards from it, I stopped, and I could clearly see it then. I couldn't make out any facial features because of where the sun was at. There was its eyebrows were casting a shadow on its face. But I could see its arms. I could see that it was squatted down on this rock. Its knees were up by its shoulders. And this thing was probably 4 foot across the shoulders. It was enormous. It was a blonde color. And I'm standing there. I could see the wind was blowing a little bit, and I could see the hair on its arms and its body moving in the wind. And I'm standing there trying to figure out what I am looking at. And I thought, nobody's going to believe this. If I tell somebody this, they're going to think I'm crazy, because there ain't no such thing. And I didn't know the kill range on a shotgun, because I had never shot a shotgun before. So I had the gun loaded, and I started walking toward it. And as soon as I started walking toward it, it started swaying side to side again. And when I got to where I thought I could kill it, which I intended to do, I'd stopped and raised the gun up, thumbed the hammer back. And when I did that, it was squatted on this rock, and it started to go to the standing position, and I shot it right in the face and knocked it off of the back of this rock. Well, empty single shot. I run to we had a 5-strand barbed wire fence there. I ran to the fence, jumped, climbed over the fence. As soon as my feet hit the ground, I put another shotgun shell in the shotgun, and I scrambled up the hill there, thumbed the hammer back, and stepped around behind the rock to finish it off or be prepared. And there was a big hole that went down the hill toward the fence underneath this rock. It's a big, big hole. And it wasn't there. And I wasn't about to, I was young and dumb, but I wasn't stupid. I wasn't about to go down in this hole with a long gun and no flashlight. So I scrambled back down to the fence, unloaded the gun, jumped over the fence, and I ran all the way back across the field, about a quarter, half a mile back to the house. And I ran in the house, and my mom was in the kitchen. If she was up, she had a wash rag, wiping the counters down or doing something. And I ran in the kitchen all out of breath and told her what happened. And she never even looked at me. She said, "Gary Dale," she said, "if you want to go squirrel hunting with that gun, you go back to the woods and you go squirrel hunting. And if you don't, you take it back in there and hang it back on the gun rack and take my vest off and put it up and get out of here and leave me alone. I don't have time for your nonsense." And I couldn't get her to go back over there with me. And that's basically what happened. Of course, I put the gun up. I was done squirrel hunting by then. And that's basically what happened. If you have any questions, I'll answer them best I can.
Sure. What gauge shotgun was it, Gary?
It was a 12 gauge single shot Stevens.
Okay. And you had buckshot in there, I'm guessing?
I had 7.5 light load squirrel loads in there. That's what she hunted with. She was a little bitty, and she couldn't handle a heavy load shell.
So you said when you were walking towards it and you were able to put the shell in the gun and close the gun, you were about 30 to 40 yards away. And you were
Somewhere in that
walking a little
neighborhood.
bit. You continued to walk at that point. So you might have got, what, 25 yards to it before you shot it, you think? Or
Maybe. And you know, those distances are estimates.
sure.
It's been 52, 53 years ago, and I was a kid. But that's as best as I can remember, Todd.
So when you shot this thing, you're pretty sure you shot it in the face? Do you think that's where you hit it? Did you see it?
Oh, I knocked it off of the back of the rock, yeah.
And then you went around the rock and looked, and there was a hole underneath the rock? You think?
There was a big hole, fresh dirt, kicked out uphill, and the hole went down toward the fence, downhill. This rock was pretty good size, and it was flat, but it was sitting on a slope at an angle.
Did you notice any blood when you were over there?
No, sir, no blood or hair, because I looked.
How tall do you think that thing was? It didn't get fully stood up before you shot it, right?
It didn't get fully stood up, but if it did, I'm guessing 8 or 9 foot. It was its arms and legs were. It was just a enormous animal, or whatever it was. It was enormous. Of course, I was a kid, but it had to be 8 foot tall.
You say it was blonde in color.
It was a blondish color, yeah.
Before this happened, you said you didn't think about Bigfoot or know anything about Bigfoot?
Oh, I grew up in Johnson, Massac County, 3 channels on the TV, and nobody never heard of such. I couldn't put in my mind what I was looking at. Nothing I was seeing registered as. That's why I shot it. That's the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. That's one of the biggest regrets I have in my life, is I wish I hadn't shot it. Because that really, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that thing intended me any harm. For all I know, it may have watched me grow up over the years.
Yeah.
But I just knew that if I didn't, I had full intention of killing it, because I knew nobody's going to believe this. There ain't no such thing. I didn't run in the house and tell Mom, I shot a Bigfoot. I didn't know what it was, because I'd never heard the term Bigfoot or Sasquatch or none of that. I just did not know what it was.
Well, I know you have regrets about shooting it. You told me that before when we talked earlier, and I understand that. I think anybody would. But if it makes you feel any better, I don't think he killed it. I think he got away, obviously. He would have been there, right?
Well, I didn't kill it. I know I had to have wounded it.
Yeah, maybe you
But
did.
no, I don't think I killed it.
Well, I'm sure you gave it a little.
When I shot it, it didn't fall off the rock. I knocked it off of the back of the rock. I seen the impact of, when I pulled the trigger, I seen the impact of the buckshot. Of course, I wasn't looking at the buckshot, but I seen the impact of the shot knock him off the rock. Because all he was going to do was stand up. He wasn't going to jump off the rock. He was in the process of standing up. When I aimed the gun at him, he went from squatted to starting to stand up. And that's when I pulled the trigger.
Did you think you killed it when you shot it?
I didn't know. And you're going to think this is silly, but nobody instilled fear in my life when I was a kid. I wasn't afraid of anything. I wasn't brought up to fear anything. Nobody told me, be afraid when you go in the woods. Be careful when you do this, or don't do this because of this. I had never, too dumb to be scared, I guess. Fear wasn't even in my mind. All I could concentrate on was nobody's going to believe this. Nobody's going to believe this.
How has it affected you after that in your life completely? Did it change you? Did it stop you from hunting and going out in the woods?
No, I've hunted all of my life.
What would you do if you saw another one?
If I could get a picture of it with my phone, I'd get a picture of it. If I couldn't, I guess I'd just stand and watch it.
What part of what was the closest town, if you could tell me, in southern Illinois that this happened?
I guess the closest one would be Vienna, Illinois.
I'm just looking on the map here to see.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, you're
if
right.
You could find Highway 45,
mm-hmm.
Johnson-Massac County line.
There's a lot of activity down in southern Illinois, and we've had several people on the show with several encounters from there. It's one of probably the most popular spots we've had on the show so far.
Really?
Where are you at now, Gary?
I moved to northwest Nebraska.
Do you get out and hunt up there?
I'm going to this year. I found some private property. A rancher gave me 3,000 acres to hunt on. And I'm going to bow hunt. I got a new crossbow. And I'm gonna try to get me a mule deer this year. So,
as far as Bigfoot goes, did you get interested in Bigfoot after that?
No, I
didn't.
Or? No, I just kind of, I don't want to say brushed it off. It's always been in my memory, but no, I didn't become a fanatic over it. I just kind of, the only person I had to tell was my mom, and she obviously didn't believe me. And I just kind of let it fall by the way. It's just something that happened. But, I didn't forget about it, but no, I'm not a fanatic. It interests me, but I'm not obsessed with it.
What do you say to people that say, "Oh, Bigfoot's not real. There's no way, it's not possible. It's made up"?
I don't care. I don't care what they think. If I went along with people that said Bigfoot doesn't exist, I'd be calling myself a liar, and I know what happened. I'm not going to do that under any circumstances. I know what happened.
Besides the fact that you feel bad about shooting it, and I understand that, if you could change anything besides that, would you have still wanted to see a Bigfoot like you did?
Yeah, I guess I would. I mean, if something like that truly exists, who wouldn't want to? If I knew that, if I could see another one today and knew that it wasn't going to cost me my life or injury, yeah, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, they talk about how Bigfoot they know what guns are. I'm surprised that maybe he didn't know that you had a gun, or maybe he just didn't know. You think it was an adult, right? You said he was definitely an adult Bigfoot.
Oh, it was definitely, whatever it was definitely an adult. It was huge.
Did it kind of amaze you?
But
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
Well, and this may not be anything, but I got a little 22 single shot rifle when I was 12, I think, for my birthday. And I carried that gun with me. If I was in the woods, I had that gun with me. And let's just say that thing, this is going to sound crazy. Let's just say that thing watched me grow up there. I'm not saying it did. I'm not saying it didn't. But maybe it was used to seeing me carry a gun. Maybe I could have walked by this thing or walked under it and went up in a tree and not even known it was there, because that never entered my mind. That, I'm not a kid walking through the woods looking for boogeyman. And if I'd have seen it and it was standing still, it might not have registered with me. And maybe that thing watched me grow up carrying a gun. And I never heard it because I'd never seen it. I never harmed it with a gun because I never had that opportunity. And I know that sounds far-fetched, but that's just a theory.
Really, it doesn't, because I was going to ask you, do you think that thing had been there for a long time? Had it watched you around the area? You said it was, about a half or quarter mile from your home?
Yeah, it was about a half a mile.
So unless he was just passing through, if he's sitting on this rock and there's this big tunnel or this hole, whatever you're seeing there that this thing could get down in, I think maybe he was hanging around there at least for a little bit of time.
Yeah. Well, me and my stepbrother were up there. I don't remember how old we were, but we were up on top of that hill, 100 yards from where this happened. And we seen this blonde hair way up in a tree, 7 or 8 feet, 9 feet up in this, snagged on this limb. And I was lighter than Smitty, and I got up on his shoulders and broke the twig off. And it was a hair, and that thing was 18 inches long. And we were just kids, and Smitty said, not knowing, he said, how would a horse's mane hair get that high up in a tree? Well, because that's kind of what it looked like, a horse hair off of a horse's mane or tail. And I said, it probably blew up there, or a bird. Neither one of us had ever heard of anything like that. So we just threw it down and went on.
When's the last time you've been to that area? Has it been since you were a kid?
Oh, geez. 30 years ago, probably plus. I don't even remember. It's been a long, long time.
How big was this rock?
Probably 8 or 10 feet wide and 12, 14 foot long, 4 foot thick.
You think it's still there?
I have no idea. The farm's changed hands, and I like I said, I haven't been back there in forever.
It'd be interesting to see if it was, and if that hole or that tunnel or that cave or whatever that thing crawled down into would be.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that is, the old man, Mathis, owned the farm. My stepdad at the time worked for him. He's long since passed away, and his son is not particularly a nice guy. Let's just put it that way. Because I asked Tony 35 years ago if I could go back down there and squirrel hunt, and he told me no. He said a blight came through here and killed all the oak trees, and I knew better than that.
He said what came through and killed it?
A blight in the trees.
What's a blight?
And, you could drive down a tree blight.
Disease, basically, in the trees.
Oh, okay.
Could be bugs.
Anybody with any common sense can drive down the highway and tell that the oak trees are still alive.
Do you think he knew that those creatures were out there?
No. If he's seen anything like that, he just blow it off.
So if you could summarize, give a definition of what Bigfoot is, why it's here, how it's here, I mean, what would you say these things are? Where do they come from? What's your thoughts on it?
Oh, boy. I think they've been here all along. Everywhere, not just here in the United States, worldwide. And there's trillions and trillions of acres of wild forest that people have never... There's parts of the earth that people have never been. And it's not that far-fetched for something to be able to hide and not be seen. But the reason there's being more sightings is everything's getting more crowded with people. People are starting to venture out more. Roads are opening up. Developments, progress. Why are they here? I think they've been here all along. What their purpose is, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, we don't know our purpose, do we? Really?
No, not really. We're just here.
They're just here like we are, right?
Yep.
I find that hard for people just to accept that you're right. There's a ton of undiscovered area. There's places where human feet have never walked and may never walk.
Never been. No.
And
you're right.
I was reading something on social media yesterday, and it talked about how if a guy dips a 5-gallon bucket into the ocean and he looks in the bucket and says, "There's no sharks or whales in here, therefore there should be no sharks or whales in the ocean." That's like somebody who never goes out in the woods never goes out in those areas, but maybe they just go in the backwoods of their field. Oh, I've never seen a Bigfoot around here, so they don't exist. They're not here.
Right. Right.
So just the closed-mindedness of that, people not willing to open their minds. When I was younger, I was so closed-minded, but now that we've been doing this, I've opened my mind up to a lot of things, and I'm glad I have. I feel way better about things, just doing that, being able to do that, and accepting that there's just things out there that we don't understand.
Right, and never will.
Never will.
Science is not going to discover everything on this earth. And I've got a theory. They're finding things that are said to be billions of years old. They found a steel-headed hammer in stone from 400,000 years ago. And this is going to sound far-fetched too, but I believe it. I believe that mankind and life, period, has came and went and came and went and came and went for millennia on this earth. Civilizations have rose and fell. Earth has renewed itself. Civilizations have rose and fell. There's no telling how many times this earth has evolved. And I don't think science will ever know the truth about that.
That's a great point, Gary. I think you're right.
Well, I believe that. I do.
Well, there's talk about how humans used to be a lot bigger than we were. We used to be more giant-sized.
Yep.
If you believe the Bible or not, the Bible, the flood, maybe God created man too big. I screwed up.
The Bible speaks of the Nephilim. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Nephilim, yeah.
And they were giants. Nephilim, yeah. And they were giants. They're finding skeletons. They're finding tools.
Nobody said God got it right the first time. He's probably just working on trying to help us improve ourselves and become advanced, but sometimes we just don't get it. And we screw up or we blow ourselves up or,
Yep.
If you look at, the Grand Canyon, we all know, or pretty damn sure, that river was up at the top of that and eroded all of that canyon down to where it is now. And how many years?
And how many billions of years could it took to do that?
Exactly. And you can see the layers and the sediments and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, we appreciate you being here with us today, man. It was great hearing your encounter. That is an awesome encounter.
Well, like I said, I have one regret with that, and that's the fact I shot it. I wish I hadn't done that.
I understand. And 12, 13 years old, you got a gun in your hand, you're nervous. I think a lot of people would have done the same thing.
Yeah, that's one regret I'll take to my grave. I know it wounded it. I may have blinded it. That's the thing that bothers me. Anyway, it is what it is.
Again, we appreciate you being here.
Quite welcome.
You take care, man, and know something else you want to come on and let us know, just get a hold of us.
All right, I appreciate it. And same here. If you guys have any questions, give me a ring.
All right, we'll do, buddy.
All righty. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Cryptid Creature Show with Todd and Brian. We're glad you're here, and we hope you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to visit our website at www.cryptidcreatures.net. By becoming a member, you'll get access to exclusive videos, members-only episodes, early, unedited, ad-free releases, and even a shout-out on an episode. Join us at www.cryptidcreatures.net, and thank you for supporting the show. Hey, James, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
So, I talked to Todd yesterday, and I listened to I was telling Todd that I've been busy listening to you guys at work. I'm a union painter, and I get sick of music, so I listen to podcasts all the time. And I'm almost all the way through your guys. But, I share it and, tell people about it and stuff like that, because there's some really strange stuff, and I love that stuff. It's, I don't have it, like I said to Todd, I don't have any dog man or anything like that, but just other weird, freaky stuff, like supernatural stuff. Just I don't have like one huge long story, but like I have several different occurrences that have happened throughout my childhood. From about, I would say, about 6 or 7 was like my first encounter with like, but I think like I was woken up. I think it was a Saturday, and I share a room. I'm the youngest of 4 children. I shared a room with 2 brothers in the top of a bungalow, and I like to sleep in. So they weren't there when I woke up, but I was woken up to a bright light and something calling my name 3 times, and I believe it was God, and he spoke to me. I went back to sleep. I woke back up, and I never told anybody about it for years because I just didn't really think anything of it. I was a little kid, and I wasn't afraid or anything like that, but I know it was God. And then, throughout my life, I just had some like really strange stuff would happen, like, just random stuff. So I figured after listening to your podcast, I was like, maybe they'd want to hear some of my crazy stories, because I can't be the only one that, and I know I'm not the only person that like sees things or hears things, and like, it doesn't happen all the time, but, I just thought it was like pretty some random stuff. And like I said, no Bigfoot or dog man, unfortunately, but I'm still kind of young, so you never know. I don't go looking for it. I think some of that stuff finds you. As a teenager, I started like reading the Bible, and I remember like I couldn't find something I was looking for, so I prayed, and my hands were underneath the Bible, and like the pages just started turning. And I closed it. I'm like, I'm done. I kind of like, actually, like I walked away from um, religion and all that. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this. Like, this is creepy. It was just, I had a very hard time after that. I was suffering from panic attacks and was on medication. And so that wasn't like a good experience for me. And I told my brother about it. He's like, I would have stopped and see where it landed. I'm like, yeah, no, not me. I'm like, I'm done. Ouija board stuff. Like, I never dabbled with a Ouija board, but at YMCA camp, kids were fooling around with it, and it's like stuff was like levitating in their tent, and like just kind of just weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like, just stuff that you really. I mean, there is an explanation, I believe, but some people will look at it differently and either think you're crazy or they don't believe you. It's like a lot of these people that see stuff, shadow figure or whatever, any kind of cryptid. Like a lot of, people, I get why people don't want to talk about that stuff, because, some people aren't really ready to hear it. So, yeah. So anything else? I mean, I got, a couple other crazy things that have happened. I don't know where you guys have any questions or anything like that.
With your first encounter, first episode, or whatever you want to call it, what did he say to you? You remember?
He called my name 3 times. There was like I couldn't open my eyes. I sat up in bed. My eyes were closed. But he told me, he said, "Do not be afraid. I'm with you always." And that was it. And then that was audible. Like, I could hear that. The second time he spoke with me, he spoke to me, was like in my head. And I kind of like jumped out of I jumped because like I just came out of nowhere. And I used to write poetry, and I was writing something, and he said to me in my head, he's like, "That's not who you really are." So it's just some weird things, like weird personal things, you know what I mean? And so I didn't really tell too many people about those 2 experiences, because it has to do with God, and like people kind of like shut that off and don't want to hear about it. And I'm fine with that, because I don't try to jam my opinion or anything or down anybody's throat. You know what I'm saying? You could be starving to death, but no one's going to jam a filet mignon down your throat. Right. You gotta want to eat it. So
we take all the opinions here. So
yeah, there's some other like teenage stuff. Like I dated a girlfriend, and her sister both had encountered something that had woken them up in the middle of the night. In the same house, it was a man in a flannel with like a lantern, and they both told their mom about it, which was kind of strange because it. But I used to spend a lot of time at my girlfriend's house. We were together from like 15 to like 18, and they had a duplex, so the parents lived on the bottom and the kids lived up on the second floor, and it was awesome. Just, it was just great. Pool table up there and whatnot. It was just a good time. But I was in the bathroom and she told me to like turn the water on to, like, she wanted to take a bath. So I leaned over to turn the water on in the bath, and they had the old house where like hot and cold are separate. You got to turn them. So I stood up and I saw the hot water, like, lefty loosey, and the water started coming out. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I turned it off real quick. I was like, oh my God. That was pretty crazy. So that was like just out of nowhere. So, and I also used to spend nights there. And I recall one night, like, I woke up, I felt footsteps in the room, like heavy footfall. There's nothing there, but like it woke me up and scared the shit out of me. Like, I just, I think anybody would, and I'm a deep sleeper, but that woke me up. That was kind of crazy. But then I was telling Todd, I was around 26. My daughter was about a year old, and I was living in an old house in the country with her mother at the time, and we heard this entity speak to us, and it was like it was crazy. Like the hair on our neck like stood up, and like I don't know what it said, because it was like this. It was like a language. I think it was like a language from hell. Like, I don't understand it, but it almost sounded like there was like blood in the lungs, like a gurgly like a gurgly voice, and it was crazy. So that was another tripped out experience we had. And then, like years later, I think I might have been 40 years old, 41 maybe. Like I had sleep paralysis. I was like literally being suffocated in my bed, and I couldn't move. I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't breathe in or out. Like, I was locked up. Like, I was being attacked by something, and I wanted to say Jesus, but I couldn't talk. So I thought it, and by the third time I said it in my head, I was released, and I stood up, like I sat up on a bed and just gasped. It was like, oh my God, like that scared the crap out of me. That was really weird. Like, just things like that happen. And the most recent incident was on March 16th. And I remember this date specifically because my girlfriend and I went out to my brother's out in the boonies, and like, it's the 5th largest Amish community in Ohio. It's Middlefield. So Middlefield's right here, right next to it is West Farmington. That's where he lives. And just gravel roads and no street lights. And I've been down this road like several times. So the right side of the road is a few housing. There's some houses. The left side is woods, and then there's some open fields, and there's nothing over there. There's no roads that connect to that left side of the street. So my girlfriend was driving my car on the way home, and we see a ball of light just book across the road in front of us. It was probably, it had to have been like less than 50 yards. She said it looked like a street light color, and I saw a blue, like a bluish white. We both saw the same thing but different colors, which I thought was really weird. But we saw it, and I kept my mouth shut for a second because I was waiting for her to say, "Did you see that?" And like, a couple seconds go by, like, she didn't say anything. I'm like, "Did you just see that?" She's like, "Yeah, I just saw that." I was like, "Well, why didn't you say anything?" Like, I was like upset. I'm like, I know I wasn't about to get abducted because they don't want anything that comes out of my rear end. Trust me. But yeah. So, but we get closer to where we saw it across the road. She's like clutching my arm. I'm like, it's all right, but like, it was not a buggy because it wasn't a 4-wheeler. It was something I can't explain. But I just started hunting like last year, and I was. This is like the last thing too that I can think of, but something my buddy went to go check his trail cam, and we're sitting on the side of the road, and he has got a Ford Colorado. So the passenger, the rear side, they both open up, and I'm sitting, just screwing around on my phone, and something like one of those little green, they almost smell like lemons, but they hang from trees. But this thing was like thrown like at me, like, or not at me, but like it landed in the front of the truck. and that was, I thought that was kind of odd because he was coming, from the north, and this happened on would be like the east side. So there's no way it was him, and there was nobody else out there. I thought that was kind of strange. I just shrugged it off like, okay. But I don't think it dropped because it would have just went straight down. But that little green, I don't even know what they're called, but they're all over Northeast Ohio. But yeah, it was just like lobbed, and I'm like, that's kind of strange. But that's really about it.
Was it a buckeye that you got from that too?
No, it wasn't a. I don't think it was a buckeye. It was one of those those things that people used to put in their basements. They thought they would keep spiders away. It's like a green. It's got but it's not a buckeye. I can't remember what tree it's from, but yeah, the thing was it was lobbed at me, or in the front of the truck, and I just thought that was strange because he came out of the woods walking down the road, and I'm like, did you throw something at me? And he's like, no. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, man, something was thrown over here. Okay. It didn't drop. It was, and then, Todd was saying it must've been something with hands. So I don't think any, Southern Ohioan was waiting for us or anything like that. So that's about as kind of strange as that was, but.
Yeah, I think I said the only thing that can throw something has to have hands.
Yeah, and I thought that was strange because there's no way that just fell out of the tree. But I didn't see anything, I didn't smell anything. But my brother's got some crazy stories about Nelson's Ledges, and even in Pennsylvania, he was camping with my uncle, and they said that there was something outside of the light in the woods and my uncle we grew up with pit bulls, and these dogs were big gentle giants, but they weren't afraid of anything, but they stayed right by them, and there was something out there, they don't know what it was, but they both felt like something was very evil, there was an evil presence there, and it wasn't an animal. So I wish I could get my brother. He's got a lot of goofy things that have happened to him too. So I don't think it's our family per se. So my mom even had a story, her and her girlfriend went off the road on the freeway in a blizzard, and they prayed, and all of a sudden a tractor trailer pulls up behind them, and they said a younger kind of looking guy with blonde curly hair jumped out and said, stay in your car, I'll get you out. And so he pulls them out, and they said that they pulled off onto the freeway and started to be on their merry way, and they look in the rear view and nothing. The tractor trailer is not there. So I was like, that's kind of wild. I believe my mom's, my mom doesn't tell stories, so I definitely believe my mother. She was a good Catholic. She's a good Catholic girl, but yeah, so bunch of just stuff like that, little instances, things happen, and so just stuff like that.
Is it the area of Ohio that you're in, or that area outside of Cleveland that could be, or is it more associated, do you think, with you and your family in general?
I think it's more of a family thing. I don't think it has. I mean, because I think I don't think it's a location per se, although I think that can determine certain things in certain situations. But I think it's more of a family thing. I don't, not anybody's in the occult or anything like that, but we grew up in a very Catholic religious home, and my mom kind of left the Catholic Church to kind of converted to Christianity, and I think once you do that, I think, no matter what anybody believes, there's good and bad. And, I was talking to Todd, there's things that are happening around us that we can't see. And there's we were, I believe that we were all born in amongst a battle that's been going on for millennia, that, we know, what I'm saying? There's things that are going on, and I think that's why things happen. I think the devil will leave you alone if you don't believe in him. But if you the opposite way, things are not going to go your way. You're not going to have a good time. You know what I'm saying? Like they crucified Peter upside down. They they stoned Stephen. You know what I mean? Just like all the martyrs and shit like that. Like you're not going to have a good time. And that's why I think things happen like that. But that's just my opinion.
Do you still go out and hunt? Or you have anything going on with that?
You know what? I plan on going back, but not so far away. I want to go closer to home because it's a 2.5 hour ride down and then a 2.5 hour ride back up. So it's basically almost like parallel to Wheeling, West Virginia. If you're looking on the map, where West Virginia would be down here on the right, and where we hunt would be in southern Ohio on the left hand side. So it's just too far away, and I don't want to spend that much time in the car. I'd rather go like maybe an hour up by me where I can go. I'm just like, the last year wasn't the first year that I went, and like I didn't get anything. I just sat there. It was basically just time in nature, but I just figured, hey, I better learn how to hunt and, at least harvest a deer in case I can't go to the grocery store. So that's just how my brain thought, it was thinking.
You never know when that's going to happen.
I'll eat a squirrel if I have to, but you know what I mean? Like, you don't know, like the supply chain could get, like that bridge, the Francis Key Scott Bridge. Like, I think that was deliberate. I mean, come on now. That's a bunch of BS, and I just don't understand. People just eat it up. It was on the news. This is what they said. They just, I don't know. I don't believe that. I don't believe in every single conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of things out there that are hidden from us, and we're fed a bunch of crap. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like the taste of a lot of it. So, I've always been like the kid that was like, why can't I do this? Like, if you tell me to do something, I'm not going to do it. You tell me not to do it, I'm doing it. Was just an idiot, and that's how I had to learn. But yeah, I always question the narrative, and that's just how I live. You have to. You can't believe everything. Just like your show, like how you guys, I don't know if you had any like negative feedback from your family. You guys are starting a podcast about cryptid stuff. You guys are crazy. Like, nobody, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, people need to hear about that kind of stuff because it happens. And, I think it's obviously I called in, but yeah, so it's good. It's a good thing to do. You gotta do what you can, I don't have that much time. Otherwise, I probably would have a podcast. But no, I wouldn't. I'm a better painter. I'm a painter.
Well, we appreciate you listening to us while you're painting, man. But
absolutely.
That area you're in over there, Eastern Ohio.
Northeast. I'm on the eastern suburbs of Cleveland.
Okay.
So I was telling Todd right yesterday about the chain rattling down at the terminal tower. That's got some history down there. I was telling him when it was built, there was two teenagers that were buried alive in concrete during the Depression. Someone jumped out of a window. Someone hung himself in the stairwell I painted. And I was down there, and I usually the machines are locked down, but that particular night I was on second shift because we were spraying a nasty chemical nobody wanted to smell during the day. But I walked past this machine that should have been locked with the chain. The chain was on there, and I told my buddy, I was like, "Look at that! They left it unlocked, and the chain was rattled. I heard it rattle." And he's like, "Oh, someone threw a box of screws." I'm like, "Dude, there's somebody up here. It's just me and you. That was a chain, you ding ding." And then my other buddy, we were both on the same floor, but he was on a different side of the floor, and he was in the bathroom, and he called me. He's like, are you over here fucking with me? I'm like, no, what do you mean? I'm over here working. He's like, I hear someone dragging cardboard around on the concrete. I'm like, what's not me, man? So there was like some weird stuff in that building that was going on, but it's got a lot of history. So, I mean, I guess location can play a factor, but I don't think it necessarily has to. You could be anywhere and something can happen.
That area that you're in, though, Eastern Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, that whole kind of part of the Midwest, there's a lot of craziness going on in that. Not just paranormal, a lot of Bigfoot, a lot of Dogman, a lot of UFO kind of things happening over there too. So
Yeah, so keep getting out in the woods.
Yeah.
I can believe it. I can believe it. I mean, sometimes you don't have to get out in the woods. You could just be in someone's house and the faucet starts turning on its own, but I'd rather have an experience with something like that than have to see like a dog man. I do believe in that kind of stuff. I definitely believe in the Bigfoot and even other like crazy, like, and here's, I never would think that I would admit this at this, like when you're younger, you're like, oh, that stuff is just fantasy. It's not real. But, I believe that there's a possibility that there's mermaids. Why wouldn't there be? Why would there be legends and stories thousands of years old about people seeing these things and, along with Bigfoot and Dogman? I mean, you can trace that stuff back to historic, so there's a lot of strange stuff. So that piques my interest. So, like I said, I just don't want to see one of them things, but, I don't have to see it to believe that it's there. 'Cause, I haven't seen God, but I know he's there, and I haven't seen that voice, but I heard it and I know that was there. So I don't need any, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We appreciate you again being on here and
Yeah, we
sharing
do.
everything with us. And sounds like, maybe it's not unfortunately over. You might have some more things going on.
If I
Keep
do,
us in the
I'll
loop. Yeah.
absolutely.
Let us know.
Yeah, I hope not, but yes, thank you for that.
All right, James, well, you have a good one, bud. Thank you again.
You
Yeah, man,
guys,
we appreciate you.
thank you for your time. Thanks again. Have a good evening.
You too, James.
And goodbye.
And it was really cool having both those guys on. James's paranormal
was.
stuff, Gary shooting that Bigfoot. Wow.
That was wild. I don't believe he killed it, but
I don't think so
I'm
either.
sure he probably wounded it.
Sounds to me like it took off or went down that hole or whatever he was talking about.
Something.
Crazy in itself, though. I mean, what would you have done?
Yeah.
That was
Probably
you.
the same thing when I was 12 years old.
Everyone, thanks for listening. We appreciate you guys as always.
Yeah, man.
If you've seen a Bigfoot, a Dogman, or any other cryptid, or know someone who has, reach out to us, get a hold of us. Brian, what's that email again, brother?
info@cryptidcreatures.co.
Right on. You can also hit us at our website, cryptidcreatures.net, and you can submit your story there if you want to be anonymous. Just want to tell us, get it off your chest. We don't have to do an episode. Just reach out to us. We're here for you.
Sure.
All right, my friend. Great hanging out with you. Great episode.
Always fun, man. Always learning.
All right, let's get out of here. What do you say?
Yep. See ya.